talk about today, so we will first ask for an approval of today's agenda. Approve?
Second.
Thank you. How about the minutes? Any corrections, additions, or can we have a motion to accept the minutes as submitted?
Andrew, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as
If
read.
you'd like to, then why don't you?
I did.
Okay.
Second. I would like to second. Okay.
All right.
I second it, okay.
Let me go.
I would like to, not only second it, but I would like to second it.
Okay, so firstly, as everybody, unless you've been under or in a cave, you know that the MTA board did recently vote to increase fares and tolls. These will go into effect August 20th, which is earlier than we had originally anticipated, but because it's later than the time of year that fare increases normally happen, which is March, they wanted to move it as far up as they could. So it's August 20th. On August 20th, the fare will move to $2.90 for a single ride. A 7-day pass will go up $1 to $34. The monthly will go up 4% or $5 to $132. Express buses will go up 4%, or 25 cents to $7. City ticket will still be $5 off peak, $7 peak, and Far Rockaway will be added to the city ticket system, which is about time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but.
I know you're happy about that.
Can I interrupt and give you a compliment because your impassioned speech at the board meeting on behalf of the city.
Thank you. But I didn't get everything I wanted.
Well, the Atlantic, whatever you call it.
No, I'm gonna go into that in a moment, but thank you.
I just say that it was so well done.
Around it, we only buy it at.
Yes, you can only buy it, on e-ticket or in the Far Rockaway Long Island Railroad station. Hopefully that will cut down on the fraud that could have been perpetrated by riders who might actually be riding from Inwood, Lawrence, Cedarhurst, Woodmere, Hewlett, Gibson, or Valley Stream.
Wow.
So, yes, Sharon.
Is there a way to calculate and publicize how much less the fare increase would have been if we weren't absorbing the fare jumpers?
Fare evaders? Well, it's already less of an increase because the state gave us money, so it wasn't a 5.5% increase, which it was originally going to be, but it went to a 4%
Okay,
increase.
but just to make the point to riders that when they're letting all these people in, it's costing them money.
I'm gonna get into a little discussion of fare evasion, but Lisa, go ahead.
So there is a biannual fare increase of 4% that's in the budget. So it's anticipated that it's going to be 4%. So that is not, how the argument would.
Well, is there a way to publicize, what percent of the fare increase is really, not
it
even
doesn't tie
directly,
that way.
It doesn't tie that way, but the estimated loss
Yeah.
is $690 million.
I know. So somehow,
That's been publicized, that comes out.
That's a lot of service
but
that
it's not
could be.
each person's fare, if it
No,
pertains to each.
I don't know how to quantify that, to be quite
It would be
honest.
very difficult because different people are paying different fares.
Yeah, no, I know.
Most people are not going to
Okay.
be paying $2.90.
We're gonna move on, because we have an awful lot to talk about today. Atlantic Ticket will be discontinued on August 20th. It will be molded into City Ticket. That's a good thing, because too many ticket types could be confusing to people. What's not a good thing is that the weekly option will be lost. And I wanted to see that, not only from Southeast Queens stations, but for stations in the Bronx as well. Wherever City Ticket is available, I wanted to see the weekly option. I, as Trudy mentioned to you, gave an impassioned speech at the board about this loss and how we came up with the idea of Freedom Ticket and what the genesis of that was. The late Steve Dobrow and myself discussed this over 30-some-odd years ago, and we came up with an idea to increase ridership, which would end up increasing ridership on the subways and buses too, especially if it's all in one fare, because if your subway, commuter rail, and bus is paid for, you're not gonna drive likely, because every one of your needs is met. We did not get our way this time, but I did get some support from other board members, and I gave a speech which said, right now, you cannot use Omni on the Long Island Railroad or Metro North. And apparently that date, because it's such a complex system and so much has to be done to make it usable on the commuter trains, commuter rails, it looks like it might be as late as early 2025 before Omni is actually on the commuter rail. I said that would be a perfect time to revisit this and once again put the weekly option where one card is good for all of these modes, and I'd like to, I said, even see a monthly option at some point. I just think it makes sense to give people a good deal and to get them on the trains. Yes, Stuart.
Quick question. So, by folding the ticket into the city ticket, will there still be a way for us to get data on whether ridership changes, increases, decreases? Remember, we were asking for data, they supplied hesitantly and late, just to see how it was going. But, you know, certainly, if they're able to differentiate the data for the residents in the Rockaways or the people using the Atlantic Branch, I think we should ask for that.
Well, Atlantic Ticket was actually good on stations, not exactly on the Atlantic.
I mean,
good at Queens Village and Hollis and all of that.
Atlantic Avenue, yeah, not Atlantic.
So we can, and the new open data, platform
Yeah.
that the MTA has launched, and that's on the state platform, is, makes it much easier to find what we're looking for. So that will be helpful.
Right.
That makes it, and if it's not there, we're gonna ask.
And I think it'll help bolster
Yeah.
your argument. And
We've also asked for a feasibility study and field study, for a pilot. We don't want to say pilot program, because there are a lot of pilot programs, and that's one of the issues that they had, is their need to eliminate, or to be able to have pilot programs.
our pilot was successful.
Oh, sorry, but
And
they're
that's
saying
even
pilot.
with the pandemic coming in and the fact that Atlantic Ticket was not available on e-tix, which is a major loss that it was not available. City Ticket is and will be, and so,
So we've asked for a feasibility study and a field study for a weekly ticket. And the MTA appears to be open to that, and, we've spoken to at least one elected official who is very interested in that, or continuing our conversation. And we
absolutely.
actually got a call in the office yesterday from someone who was really upset that, who gets on in Holland, who was very upset that the weekly is done, so
Is there a reason that they gave to kill it?
They said ridership wasn't that good, but it wasn't available on e-tix, and we had a pandemic in the middle of everything. Prior to the pandemic, ridership was good. We filled tons of empty seats.
They also said it wasn't, they weren't able to extrapolate it to the rest of the system, that it wasn't in it, as it was configured, that it wasn't able to be used throughout the system, that it would need to be looked at and reconsidered.
Which is why I'm saying, when Omni comes.
So, that in some places, it's actually less expensive to ride in between station pairs and the bus. So,
Right.
that's, as part of the fare report that Ryan and Kara are working on finalizing, is looking at rationalizing fare policy so that will hopefully reduce some of the anomalies right now.
And one of the great things that is starting on August 20th, which I'm happy to say I was pushing as a member of the Fare Strategy Working Group, is rolling fare capping. Not just Monday through Sunday, but the day you start. Not everyone travels that way.
That was really
That's a
good.
game changer, yeah. Mhm.
Karen,
That's a
Thank you.
huge one.
That's a huge
No,
one.
that was really,
For
I also spoke to the fact that, several Long Island Railroad stations have been taken down over the years. Corona, Elmhurst, and Springfield Gardens. Clearly, Corona and Elmhurst were very close to subways. Elmhurst was one small half a block away from the Elmhurst Avenue station. But Springfield Gardens was near nothing, and that is a transit desert, and there's such a good reason to bring that back. And we're pushing for that to come back. It's where the St. Albans branch intersects Springfield Boulevard. There's a big Home Depot. There's several other large retailers. There's thousands of people that would take use of that station. I know if you're on the western end of Springfield Gardens, you can technically walk to Locust Manor, but it's a long walk, and this station should not have been torn down. And we spoke to the local elected official, and we got the idea in his head as well, and so we are looking to see if we can get Springfield Gardens back. That was a ridiculous tear down. In fact, Springfield Gardens long ago was promised a subway. Not only did they
Yes.
not get the subway,
Yes.
they got their train station torn down.
Karen,
Preach.
Karen, did you discuss this? This is Trudy. Did you discuss this with the Queensborough president? Because I think it's important.
She's aware of it.
You mean Donovan?
Donovan, yes.
Donovan,
Yeah.
Not a sure.
I mean,
Yeah, you know, he used to live near me. I don't know if he still
I know,
lives
but
over
is he
here.
aware of what Andrew is trying to do? Because maybe
We're meeting with the electeds now.
no, but I'm talking specifically about the Queensborough
We're meeting with the
president.
electeds now.
Yeah.
We're bringing it to everybody's attention,
Okay, but it hasn't been brought to his attention yet.
not as of this particular moment, but it will be shortly.
Okay.
Andrew, with the Springfield Gardens line, is that St. Albans, part of the St. Albans line?
It is.
Okay,
It-
so,
It was Rosedale, where they branch off, then it was
yes,
Spring.
that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would provide more options because right now we're dependent on the Far Rockaway or Long Beach if it stops. So, yeah, that's good.
Right, and no station between Rosedale and St. Albans. That's a long run.
both branches cross Springfield Boulevard.
Why was it
But
torn
there was
down?
only one station on one of the branches.
Yeah.
Politics?
It was not in great condition either, and it's easier to tear something down than to repair it, I guess. But I think that was a real mistake. All right, moving on.
Andrew, I had a question.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was wondering, one thing about the fare, we also need to be clear for the record that on the subways and buses, they do put it, it's on the website here, they do show the reduced fare price.
Yes,
So I
which
do
is
want-
something you've been pushing for.
Yes, and I want to make that very clear that a promise was made, and I do want to say for the record, thank you.
Great, great. So, on the issue of congestion pricing, I'm sure everybody has seen that New Jersey has filed a lawsuit and has hired Randy Mastro as their main attorney on this. I've read the,
Staten Island has also filed a lawsuit.
they say they are
No,
going to.
he yesterday gave it, it's probably being filed today.
He didn't file, he's joining with Governor Murphy, he's not filing.
He's not filing his own?
On New York One, on New York One last night.
File his own, all right, last time.
On New York One last night on Inside City Hall, which I have to say, Dan and all the rest give the best transit coverage of any place. It's a commercial for them.
Paid
But,
announcement for New York.
this is a paid announcement, yes, Errol Lewis will love me even more than he does. But anyway, Priscilla said that he was filing suit on behalf of that's why I asked you the question when you walked in, on behalf of the citizens of Staten Island. And he made that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that he had filed it yet. Are you
Oh,
saying
well,
he
he
has
was-
joined New Jersey?
He
Right?
was
No,
joined,
he's
he said last week he was joined New Jersey.
That
He
was
filed,
last week, I'm telling you what he said last night.
Can we just hear from Scott for a second?
no, he knows. I'm not gonna go back and forth.
He publicly, he said last night that he was filing suit. Now, maybe he changed his mind overnight or something.
The basis is that not enough environmental studies were done, specifically for
No, he
parts
had.
of Bergen County near the GW Bridge.
They had a whole discussion about it, because then he said one of the reasons is there's no mass transit for the people of Staten Island. And whoever was on the panel pointed out, it might have been Errol or Bob, Late or somebody, but who then pointed out about CERT, about, all the buses, but it's Staten Island Rapid Transit. And it was really interesting, because he said, oh, I didn't it was like he didn't know about it, or he had forgotten about it or something, but that came up, so.
Well, our rapid transit isn't rapid, and the, express buses off hours are basically local buses all through Staten Island.
And the transit's really on one part of the island, like the northern part going, it's buses, so you have to take a bus to get to the ferry, so it's not equally dispersed throughout Staten Island.
There's no quick way to get off Staten Island, no matter what.
The ferry.
Swim.
You have to get, it's a 31-minute ride from Tottenville to get to the ferry.
Yeah.
But for 19 of those 21 stations, you're not even expected to pay a fare. There was no fare collection, but unless it's St. George or Tompkinsville.
But you can flip that. Well, see, if you go to the St. George station, there's very, very few fare evaders.
That's interesting.
So what they're not getting for revenue in the other stations, there's nobody really jumping a turnstile in St. George or Tompkinsville.
That's good, because the other 19 don't have turnstiles.
Yeah.
But one of the things
And we also have 5 free bus routes where jumping a turnstile is not legal.
Right. One of the things Staten Island has long talked about and been promised, and unfortunately has not yet taken advantage of, was a light rail system from St. George over to Port Richmond. That would have been such a good thing. You could have eventually extended that over the Bayonne Bridge, which was built to allow a rail system.
Yeah, yeah.
Would have gone right to the Hudson Bergen Light Rail at 8th Street. It would have been such a great connection for people, and it just hasn't happened. They're still talking about a limited bus, a limited bus from St. George to Port Richmond or something.
89 bucks.
They could put a bus route along the right of way.
Tracks existed for a good deal of the way.
Because the bottom line, Casella's correct. There's no quick way off of Staten Island.
No.
If you get the one bus from the transit center, just to get off Staten Island on the weekend, it takes you 45 minutes.
And you know what else is not on Staten Island, which would be a natural thing? It's pretty obvious that Newark Airport is Staten Island's closest and most important airport. There's no mass transit way to get there. You would think there would be an express bus or something, a feeder, nothing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Staten Island needs a
And I'm
lot better
14
transit.
minutes away from the airport.
Yeah, yeah.
If I'm walking up.
One of
I'm
the-
doing 85.
One of the big things that was brought up before the TMRB and will continue was about I guess you're gonna get into the TMRB.
Okay.
But was about the toll on the Verrazano Bridge specifically. I mean, because of that, you know, and not having to pay, you know, double, triple, whatever, because of having to take the Verrazano Bridge. I forget who
So from Montauk to Canal Street, not pay one toll. So from Montauk Point to Canal Street, not pay a toll.
A lot of people are doing that?
No, but I'm just saying, you can go from Nassau County to Canal Street, not pay a toll.
Well, I know one of the things the TMRB will be looking at is if you pay a Port Authority or an MTA bridge or tunnel toll, you would get credit towards the congestion fee.
You could get credit.
You could get
You
credit.
might get credit.
Yes,
They're discussing it.
they're discussing it, so that's certainly on the table. So to say automatically, like apparently the state of New Jersey is saying that you're not going to get that credit, it's just not factual. And they did an exhaustive, environmental review, enough to pass the Federal Highway, Administration, who, you know, dragged their feet on it until the MTA did do a pretty darn good survey, so, you know, it'll be interesting.
Very good.
If they
Very
can paint
good.
it,
Very good environmental.
Not a darn good one. Okay, a very good one.
they can paint it any color you want to paint it, it's still a tax.
Yesterday,
It's a progressive tax, you can paint any color you
But
want.
look at it this way. Something like 85 to 90% of New Jersey commuters use the New Jersey Transit train or bus to enter the business district, the central business district.
Alright.
Some of them then switch to an MTA, not all of them, but a good amount of them. Having a better built, better funded MTA capital program benefits them. If they're driving in, there'll be fewer cars on the road, so it benefits them yet again. If they're breathing, it's even better. How are they not benefiting from this? And New Jersey Transit is approaching its own fiscal cliff darn soon. That's darn.
That's darn, that's
Okay.
absolutely darn.
And if they don't put state money into New Jersey Transit, there could be service cuts there. They haven't improved their service in years, so, you know.
It'd be an economic disaster for the small business in the city, that's what it's gonna
The world is
be,
burning,
an economic disaster.
and we are quibbling about these little amounts of money.
So, I want to say there were, so I sat at the TMRB meeting, I've also sat in hundreds of hours of, the congestion pricing here. And
Yeah, I was there too.
They'll have
thousands of pages. I'm not sitting at the email for a moment. And what I found very interesting at the TMRB meeting was the presentation that the MTA gave on instructions to the panelists on the TMRB, asking, basically saying, here are the 7 things that we're asking you to look at. And the things that, and within those 7 topics, what we were specifically asking you to look at. Full credit, one is exemption, one is for hire vehicles, one is, this is currently configured is the way the legislation is written, conceivably MTA buses could be thrown into the, or out of the congestion zone. Trucks is another, is a whole other topic. There is no, passenger vehicles are told once a day, under this legislation. Trucks, come in different categories, and there's no statutory limitation on the number of times they could be told. But, it's up to the TMRB if it would be 1 or 2. There are many who think it should be a per axle toll, similar to that, on the George Washington crossing and other major crossings. That, cargo vans, that cargo van stocks are certainly not looked at the way that attenuated, trucks are. And the way the toll structure is developed, different for them, could be different for them. So whether, Jerry Bringman from the chair of CTAC and the LRCC has expressed concern about more than once a day toll.
But a truck pays the toll, makes his delivery to a store. Who's paying for it? The trucking company's not. You are.
So.
For sure. Your $13 sandwich
We're saving the earth.
Lisa,
So, hold on.
your $13 sandwich is now $15.
Lisa, you left something out.
I left the laundry.
No, but there is something key. I'll wait. I told Andrew I would speak next, but since everybody else is jumping in.
Let me just ask Lisa, are you done?
Okay, and may I? There are 2 things. First of all, something that came up that the members of the TMRB admitted they had was brought up by John Samuelson and the other union member, which is
John
that
Russo.
from Long Island. That how do you, to say that somebody driving or going to work would only be, told once a day is not so, because they're talking about the part-time or the not peak hour workers, so that somebody, how do you configure, what do you call a day? Somebody who works from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. or something, but works over midnight. And do they get charged twice because it's basically 2 separate days? I mean, it was a fascinating point, and I think Carl, or I don't know who, or a couple of the members of the TMRB said, Kathy, I know, said, that they hadn't really thought of that. And that was a big union issue, which they now have to look back at. The other thing is that I was asked to talk to the Sierra Club, New York City, transportation and superstructure. It was like the subcommittee of the Sierra Club, because I have a friend who heads it up, and he and I have been talking about congestion pricing and all of this. And I was amazed. And these are people who are involved. And first I told them that this was, they started off, is this, how can you do this to just raise money? And I said, you are the Sierra Club, and you are not aware that you represent the Sierra Club, they were not aware that the main part was about the environment, about, you know, clearing the air. And yes, of course, it would be wonderful to have money, but I was amazed that these people, all environmentalists, did not know some of the basic facts about. You know, I was supposed to talk for like 15 minutes, and they kept me until I had to get off to go to another meeting online, but for about a half hour, and it was really, they didn't know some of the basic facts, like if you use the FDR, you know, and and you're not going into the middle of town or like Fifth Avenue or whatever, that you don't have to pay if you're just going FDR.
Or the West Side Highway.
Or the West Side Highway. No, I said West Side Highway.
There's a lot of, there are a lot of things that are, haven't been explained very well, including intrazomal and local effects. So that if you live in Battery Park City and you're going to Tribeca, you don't pay, even though you're crossing over a zone, but there's a lot of confusion and concern.
Exactly.
Among people there.
That's what
What agency is administrating the whole program?
What?
What agency is administrating the whole program?
The TBTA.
Part of the MTA.
But part of the MTA and the members.
But in conjunction with, so the MTA, DOT, state DOT are the applicants to the federal government. It's called the, Value Pricing Plan Pilot Program on a national
So the
level.
MTA just got larger.
No, it's part of its total program.
TBTA has always been part of the
Let me tell you
MTA.
about what the next steps are. So TMRB has met one. There were a number of questions that were raised, including what constitutes, you know,
A day.
A day, right? There is a free, no charge period from midnight to 4 a.m. And that was to, allow for deliveries and for people who need to come in overnight. There are several exemptions that is part of the final bond, that finding no significant impact, that were brought in, including funding for places, including environmental justice communities that could be affected, including New Jersey, from, different mitigations that could be, so they haven't been publicized. That's part of, you know, the part of the effort that we and our colleagues in advocacy are with something in data, what you do,
Exactly.
and what the benefits are, and what is going to be funded with this money, because that's something that.
Messaging could be better.
But so let me just tell, so after that meeting, we anticipate we know that there will be at least one more, if not two more meetings. The first meeting was a 1-hour meeting. There was not a public comment period. There isn't. There's been hundreds of hours of public comment. This is an opportunity for the TMRB to ask questions, to learn, to get informed. We anticipate that the next meeting will be similar, and then that they will come back, TMRB will come back to the MTA board with a recommendation, probably for the September, and at the end of the MTA board, hopefully a very long conversation about what the recommendations are. Following that vote, and which again, we anticipate there may be that TMRB makes recommendations that could result in additional analysis that needs to be done, which could include additional modeling, which could include additional time, and that additional time could push this timetable back. So if everything adheres to, you know, to what's been in the TMRB makes a recommendation. Remember, the MTA board votes on it. Then there's probably a 4 to 5 month window with another public comment. FHWA has another crack at making sure that everything was looked at, done correctly. There's another public comment period before the final everything.
Are those mandated comment periods?
Yeah, that last one is mandated, and it's part of statute. the state, public, serious process for a toll increase and a public, a public authority process. So, and then that's when we're looking at the next year's cycle of the tolling to go into place.
Well,
They all be upended with injunctions.
Yeah, where do the lawsuits come in?
Right now, things are moving ahead. The first campuses have been, on 61st and West End.
61st.
Yeah, my neighbor.
But,
That's where things are. There were 122 requests for exemption. There were 57 requested, so that people don't get exemption. There are, a lot of people, including, elected officials, who've come out, including, voting contingent, out, to say that there should be no exemption, then drive the toll higher for everybody else. Is what the TMRB asked about and understands. Part of, one of the, mandates in the legislation is that $15 billion, be raised for, the MTH capital program once bonded. So it's $1 billion in bonds. A minimum.
Exactly,
Andrew?
which goes to the $55 billion capital program.
May I just add, no, but because I want to
Speak
point,
quickly, because
I
we have a lot
want,
to cover.
I know, and that's why, first of all, our guest speaker today, Mark Levine, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, when I reviewed with him he was one of the early,
Proponents?
well, he was in favor.
Advocate, yeah.
Advocates. He was in favor of congestion pricing, and he's been getting a lot of stuff, thrown at him because of that. But I suggested that he talk about it and what the latest is. That's number one. No, he's not against it.
He signed a letter pretty much
No, well, then Lisa, why don't you bring that up, because as of last night when I spoke to him, he is very much in favor of it, okay? He has questions, as does everybody else, and I told him that we would probably have some questions for him also. Okay, that's number one. Number two, right now, before the lawsuits, it was supposed to go, everything was supposed to go into effect in April. Because of the lawsuits, everybody is now saying that there is no way that this can go into effect by April. That's number two. And number three, there may be additional hearings because of people like Samuelson and Long Island, who are saying that, well, a lot of them had things, but especially the union people, saying that there were so many unanswered questions, and there will be more meetings, and I don't think, and Andrew, maybe you can tell me, I don't think that the board is hard fast on getting anything out in December.
Certainly not if the TMRB is going to be having more meetings.
I don't think it's not the board's schedule. It's the agency's schedule.
You mean the TMRB?
The whole process schedule.
No, well, as far as, and I've been having a lot of information. The reason that I'm so involved was because at the beginning.
We really have to
Okay,
wrap this
but I
up.
just want you
We
to
really
understand that Sam Schwartz has now surfaced again, and he has been talking about it also, so that's, and I've been
There's going to be a lot of
communicating
talking
with him.
about it.
Yeah.
Chris is next, and then Sharon.
I'm gonna be quick. When I was with Lisa also that day, nice to hear a little bit, and I'm gonna use the word a little bit, because a lot of us agree. When I say a little bit, they're only talking about very little about accessibility, from day have programs, group homes. A lot of them I've been bumping into, they're very confused, because they don't wanna listen to the news, but they need to know the question. If I live in Brooklyn, or Staten Island, or Queens, is that day have program driver, and I'm using the word driver, gonna be paying double or maybe triple? The question is they're getting 4 directions. We need one direction, but way they put it on,
There needs to be the actual question, do they have a vehicle that has a disability plate?
All of them do.
then they will not be told.
Yeah,
That's
they will
in the
not be told.
legislation. No, I agree, but guess,
You don't have to agree, it's in the legislation.
no, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, Lisa. I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but let me what I'm saying. It's not what, it's there, it's just that the way everyone is saying different information at that, it needs to be a little more clearful because, and I'm gonna be that way, I'm saying it because there's too much drama, too much this and this, that it's gotta stay in one lane, one information, gotta be clear, because,
I thought you said you're gonna be quick.
Yeah, I was just saying that.
Thank you,
Just
Scott.
saying that. I wasn't quick.
I know, but I got cut, like a scissor, but
Are you bleeding?
not yet.
We'll get your Band-Aid. Sharon?
Go ahead, thank you.
I just, given the state of the earth and that the earth is falling apart, would you rather save a few dollars on congestion pricing, or would you rather replace your entire house and all of the belongings as a result of one of the hurricanes, typhoons, or floods that this pollution is causing?
Absolutely.
That was,
That's
you
part of
just
the
summed up the whole
environmental-
thing that you could have spoken to the Sierra Club and just said that.
But,
Great.
I mean, we have to start looking at the big picture and not just quibbling about these things. It's very scary. Okay.
Thank you.
Andrew, just a question.
yeah, sure.
Lisa, you mentioned exemptions, the ones that they're considering. Are they posted on a website or?
They're not, they are not there's 122. That, the whole presentation is that people have requested exemptions for
Right.
122 groups that are categorized, things like artists and farmers, every driver, I kid you not, every driver.
Right.
What's next? People with type A blood.
Ballerinas.
I got the,
Yeah.
No, the reason I ask is, like what Trudy brought up and you echoed, you know, the mayor's office is looking at the effect on government. We have workers that work overnight,
Right.
and are authorized to use their personal vehicles with work.
But not just government.
No, I represent government. I'm saying what you're talking about concerns us. I represent other spheres as well. I'm just mentioning. So that was why the question came up about vehicles.
City fleets came up.
Yes.
Of one of the, as a separate category,
Right.
because sanitation trucks are also not exempt.
And you mentioned the buses potential.
Yeah, but that came up,
Sanitation
buses are,
trucks are not exempt, that's bizarre.
right. So, that's something that they need to look at. The city has a lot of, vehicles in its own fleet. Forget about personal vehicle fleet. So,
Right, thousands of, right,
you know,
we do.
the elected official that we spoke with, the other day, spoke about, well, perhaps the state should find funding, and this is a state elected, perhaps the state should find funding for reimbursement for people if they're being required by their employers to drive. So, these conversations are not over.
Not over by a long shot.
And, you know, we understand that the elected officials there's a letter that went out, the reason I brought up, Mark, was because he signed on to a letter, from people that kind of frankly surprised me, asking for a very interesting exemption, that, we're getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of heat, from interest groups that, are starting to make a move. So not saying that the city, you know,
Right.
There was also a letter that went out from, one of our new assembly members, Alex Boris, who happens to be my...
So, that's the letter that Mark signed on.
I know, and I had something to do, because asking questions, they got the assembly, the state senate members, more questions that they had, not being against,
And this is not the same letter. This was asking for things like no overnight fees or
saying that the letter said that their constituents were asking, that they were getting requests. And when Mark gets here, it's good that he's coming today. You can ask him whether he is proposing that, or he is just passing on information that he has been hearing from his constituents. Because besides the 120 or whatever it is, you know, the specific requests, a lot of elected officials have also been receiving
Okay,
separate
let's
requests.
move on, because we do have a speaker coming.
Andrew, isn't the answer that somewhere they're gonna have to make some decisions?
Of course.
Someone is gonna have to decide, and they're gonna have to put it out.
Yes,
So all of the minutia that we're talking about here is
and,
gonna be settled, and not everyone's gonna,
and the
most people won't be
accessibility
happy.
lawsuit that the MTA settled with advocates, which mandates 95% of the 472 subway stations will be accessible by 2055, that will take billions of dollars and would not be possible without the funds from congestion pricing. So, we gotta get the funds, you know, whatever.
Actually, looking at the letter, and they were asking MRB to review, not that they've heard from other people, they're asking the MRB to review.
Well, we can raise that when Mark is here.
Well, but I.
But please, let's go on.
Let's go
We're running
on,
out of
yeah,
time,
please.
yeah. So, some good news, we have some additional accessible stations. Recently, Dykeman on the 1 and 8th Avenue on the N were made accessible, so that's a great, addition.
Yeah, I was at the press conference, Andrew.
Yes, I know you were. And coming this year still, 181st on the A, Tremont Avenue on the B and D, East 149th Street on the 6, Lorimer Street on the L, Grand Street on the L, Metropolitan Avenue on the G, 7th Avenue on the F and G, Beach 67th on the A, and New Dorp on Staten Island Railway. That's a good amount of stations for the rest of this year.
I just want to say very quickly, but I talked to Chris about that. What was wonderful at the Dykeman Street Station, press conference is that Q and brought up Edith Prentice and that this was Edith Prentice's legacy. And I just think that was so wonderful that Q did that.
Andrew, you know, not to be the naysayer.
Sure.
We're adding all these structures. We spoke at other prior meetings about their failure to adequately maintain, or if there are other landlords that are responsible for maintaining, their failure to oversight those groups for those private.
For the elevators?
Yeah, so meaning we're adding all these things, but we really need to continue to echo that they be maintained.
Yeah, well, most of the people who are complaining about non-maintained elevators, those are like third-party elevators, interestingly.
Okay, but I'm talking about basic cleaning as well.
Oh, for sure.
Because,
Cleaning and,
you know,
absolutely. People do strange things in some of the elevators. no
right,
doubt
and I
about
think
it.
we still need to be vigilant of that.
Andrew, and I'll be, if I don't get interrupted, I'll do it quick.
There you go.
I swear.
No, you
Well, I know, thank you,
I'm
Scott.
setting my stopwatch.
Can you please do it?
It's gonna burn out.
I did want to say one thing because since everyone mentioned Edith. I did speak about Edith also at that press conference because I spoke for 2 minutes and everyone, since that day, I have gotten a lot of compliments about it. I want to say it was a great honor because that was one of Edith Prentice's projects at that station to get the second elevator, as well as 8th Avenue also. So I want to
I'm
be,
sorry that I left you out.
no, you're still in the correct, I just want to back it up.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
23 seconds.
So,
Thank you.
some very interesting
Thank you.
timetable changes coming to the Long Island Railroad, which affects our city stations on September 5. Much more morning peak hour direct service to Brooklyn. So the up and over, the run over to the Brooklyn shuttle will be less important, starting September 5.
Thank God.
Right now, it's only pretty much the West Hempstead branch that has through service to Brooklyn. It's gonna be the Long Beach, the Hempstead, the Huntington, and the Far Rockaway branches that are gonna have through service to Brooklyn. So that's gonna be a much better situation for the riders to Brooklyn. Also,
Andrew, question, how did they suddenly find they could do this?
I
Put
think
out this
feedback.
They didn't realize it?
This is a seasonal timetable change, and they've incorporated a lot of the criticism they've heard since Grand Central Madison, and wait, you're gonna hear more. You're gonna hear more. Also, there's gonna be changes to which trains actually stop at Rosedale, Laurelton, Locust Manor, Queens Village, and Hollis. Much more direct service to Brooklyn, and there's gonna be more service to Penn Station. That was another criticism, especially after things that Madison Square Garden let out, there wasn't enough trains at Penn Station. So that's gonna be rectified, hopefully. And interestingly, and I don't know why this happened, but this is gonna be rectified as well. There's gonna be a lot more trains stopping at both Kew Gardens and Forest Hills. Right now, it seems to be one or the other on most trains. And I have to say, I was on a train going to Nassau County on Sunday, and when we went through Queens Village, Hollis, Forest Hills and Kew Gardens, I have never seen so many people waiting on platforms for trains than I have seen, which proves reduced fares on commuter rails in the city works.
Thank you.
Those were
Yes.
really more
Because-
crowds than I remember ever seeing at those stations.
I think it was over the weekend. I don't remember what day. It might have been Saturday while I was waiting for the train. I couldn't count everyone on the other side of the station, you know, where you wait, but there must have been 30 to 40 people on that
Yeah,
platform on
that's what I'm
Saturday.
talking about, crowds like that. I've never seen anything like that, so
Oh, I've
reduced
seen
fare
it,
works.
Andrew, I've seen it, and I will say, I said it last year. The lines are getting red,
Are you gonna be quick?
yes, which I just
Uh,
said, everything, so thank you, Scott.
Let me just also mention, there are some upcoming service increases coming. On Monday, August 7th, additional weekday midday service on the C train, yes, with headways of 8 minutes. Anybody who's been waiting for that C train knows that's a major improvement. On Saturday, August 12th, additional weekend service on the 1 and 6, headways of every 6 minutes. So the locals on both sides of town are gonna have every 6 minutes. That's the 6-minute service that you heard people screaming about. And on August 28th, additional weekday midday service on the N and the R with headways of every 8 minutes.
Again, hold your breath.
And that's really great news, I think.
Enough equipment, Andrew?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
I have that,
I
absolutely.
did say, hold your breath.
And operators, yeah.
That means 4 minutes between them?
If it's the N and the, if it's the, yeah,
And in the R.
yeah, I would say so.
Still hold your breath in.
Yeah, and, a very interesting and unique wheelchair pilot is taking place on the M7 bus. This allows users of wheelchairs to secure the wheelchair themselves and open it up themselves and go out. And the reason the M7 was chosen, and it goes right up Columbus, down Columbus and up Amsterdam Avenue, and
Your bus.
it's, well, I've seen it, but it's because there's a lot of wheelchair users on the
Yes.
bus, and it was increasing, you know, for the bus operator to have to get out of their seat and go over. Plus, this is great. This is a humanizing thing, too. I think this is great. Being able to control your destiny like that is great. And getting up and ready to leave the bus, I think it's wonderful. So that's also very good news.
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
can people actually reach that?
Oh, yes, it's in a place that's easily reachable.
Yes, Bert, it's easy.
Not under the chair?
No, it's,
Behind the chair?
once the chair's folded, you press the button and it will activate.
Chris, how about this? Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, but I think it was yesterday, that the chairman announced the 1 billionth Omni-Tap has taken place. Yesterday.
She was on TV.
Yes, the tapper was on TV, and that's pretty amazing, considering that the machines aren't even in the stations yet, but that's coming in August. And hopefully, more and more people will use it. Now, on the subject of fare evasion, which is on everybody's mind, the MTA will be or New York City Transit will be experimenting with something that extends the arms on the turnstiles to help prevent backcocking and slipping through.
They just don't.
Yeah, right. I remember years ago, the arms were extended because it was much bigger area. It was so easy to do. Now you have to sort of be a little athletic to be able to slip through it once you backcock it. They're going to make it even tougher. They also are instituting a pilot on the slam gates, which the chairman calls the superhighway to fare evasion, which they are, to have a 30-second delay from the time you push the button. So if you see people trying to exit to a slam gate, they're not going to wait the 30 seconds. They'll just go to the turnstile because people are impatient. However, they would like to make this period longer, but because it is a state fire code issue, they have to get permission from the state of New York to make it even
30-second
longer.
delay in emergency exit? That doesn't sound good.
I think it's 15.
And it's not gonna make any difference.
They want to make it longer.
It actually, so,
Somebody will hold
watching
it down
the,
and they open it for
watching
them.
the video,
Door.
there's a release button that they can, if there is an emergency, that they can open it right away.
This is human nature. How many?
There's a video that shows,
Yeah, but it's not gonna work. The fire code says it has to open immediately, the door.
but
Can't be
they're getting exemptions and
Yeah, but you shouldn't exempt a fire code.
No, if there's an emergency, there's something
Yeah.
else you do.
All right.
Yeah, there's a way to bypass it.
They're not gonna bypass
Yeah, but
your
fire code,
ability
it's
to
gotta be
leave in
one
an
step,
emergency.
it's gotta be one-step process of egress.
Yeah, It'll
There'll be one
probably
step
be a
process.
different button you push in the case of an emergency.
Yeah, but
But everybody will just.
That's a two-step.
You can still get through, you can still get out.
Because they'll take your picture and then you could get a charge if they do that. Right now, everybody's using the slam gates. It's unreal.
It's just a highway.
It's a highway, and I've seen people at
The police on their
agent equipped entrances, they'll wait 2 or 3 trains until somebody actually exits through before they come in and board free. So, you know, that's,
Especially a wheelchair or walker trying to get off, they almost get knocked over too.
so we're running
And I
very
saw
close
somebody
to the
reach
time of
around.
our speaker. So let me ask Lisa to give you some updates before Mark arrives. And I know he's gonna be here on time because he has a deadline that he has to go to too. So, Lisa?
So we have been quite busy. We've been participating in, a number of different, hearings, press conferences, events, meetings related to congestion pricing, the toll hearings, thanks to the speakers, so thank you. Karen, thank you, who spoke, and provided us with voices that we needed. We have, made an offer to somebody for, to backfill the job that Kara has started from, when she was our, don't see me like that, she was our research and communication associate. She was promoted, remember?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so she vacated the job, yeah, don't worry. She is on a well-deserved vacation.
She vacated the US too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When we, we participated in the free bus, fare free bus press conference with Assemblymember Mondani and Senator Gennaro last week. And there are 5 free routes, or 5 fare free routes that were introduced, that, one in each borough. The one we were up in the Bronx, spoke to, a Queens elected official the other day, we found out that the route doesn't go to Jamaica LRR station, so that it would make sense to consider, at least for the time of the, time of this trial, which is between 12 months, consider extending it to the Long Island Railroad Station.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
If people will take. That's a pilot program, that's a funded program for these 5 routes that were operations planning at the MTA, did a lot of research and did a deep dive analysis and make sure that they met the criteria of the legislation, which was in a business district that didn't parallel or mirror other routes, that wouldn't take transit away from others, and that there's a sign above that says Fairview Route and has an end date. There isn't, a misunderstanding that this is always going to be
Right.
I'm sorry, Judy, you're really distracting me here.
I just raised my hand.
I know, but I know you want to speak.
sorry.
That there's a fare free route to a certain date, and then, after a certain time, that will revert, and it's going to be studied for its effectiveness, because they'll have outdoor boarding, so that they can see what that means, what that does to that works. One of the things that we have expressed very strong interest in and concern about is making sure that people don't think that every bus route is free, and then you can just change
Yeah.
free.
And I've asked
To
for
the subways
signage
and
in
the
them
buses.
to make sure they
So-
realize this bus is free, the next one you will not be.
And at the press conference that I spoke at, I was not the most popular kid on the block, because I said, and just remember that just because this bus is free, all buses aren't free. But it, it was a great day for the elected officials that fought for and funded this pilot program.
You mentioned all-door boarding, is that implying that every one of these routes uses articulated buses? Or will any use single? Because if it's all-door boarding, the rear door may not be as easy to get in.
I don't know if
If
you
you're-
know the answer to that, but,
I will find that out.
it doesn't matter, because they're all, they're just,
In fact, the M116 is not an
And,
articulated route,
yeah,
I
well,
believe.
But
Can I
the-
speak about the M1?
Hold on,
Well,
please.
you interrupted.
I know, but I'm the chair.
He's the chair.
Okay.
The other topic that we've spoken about
That's fine.
was the, Fordham Road bus lane. And that has been a big, point of contention for the elected officials, and, there's been a big, versus, I'll say, between those who want to make, including the MTA and DOT, who want to make it a bus lanes, offset bus lanes. And a handful of elected officials who, have come out and said, no, what about those people driving from out of town?
I mean,
Where the majority,
Westchester, basically.
yeah, from Westchester, the majority of people who travel to Fordham Road don't own cars and travel by mass transit.
And it's the busiest bus route in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yes, it
And it's one of the, the first, it literally goes slower than a train.
The first SBS route.
Yeah. So, that's an ongoing fight. Our voices haven't been as loud as some of our colleagues in advocacy, but it's something that Andrew's been to press conference on, and we've spoken, Kara's spoken at a press conference about it. We've, been loud in our, statements about it,
yes.
but not as loud as
And it's good for the businesses on Fordham Road, too, to have as many people come by mass transit as they can.
Can I quickly, before Mark gets here, just point something out about the 116, and it's true with others, because there's a lot of confusion, and I wish that you had pointed it out, which is that the bus is free, but especially like the M116, if you're going along 116th Street and stopping somewhere there, but you have to pay if you're going to to a subway stop or a north-south.
And I've asked for signage in the buses.
No, you didn't say it right now.
I did.
Okay.
You missed
Right.
it.
Okay, no, I wasn't distracted because it was pointed, again, I am just reporting things that have been pointed out to me, and especially on that. And there were a number of elected officials, not all went along with Mr. Assemblyman Mamdani. I know I've been pronouncing it. A matter of fact, there were a lot of elected officials, whether they said publicly or just privately amongst themselves or to me, that they thought that, well, they just didn't think it was a great idea.
Let me just say one thing which I completely forgot on the issue of the fares, which is, right now, there's a combo ticket if you're going from Long Island to Metro North via Grand Central Madison, or vice versa. Right now, the combo ticket will charge you an $8 additional fee for the second trip. That would make, like, much more money if you wanted to go from Jamaica to Fordham, for instance. So they're gonna fix that.
Come on. If you turn that around, Chris, I'm going to introduce her.
So that would have made an $18 trip instead of a $10 trip.
Yeah.
And Trudy is gonna introduce somebody who doesn't really need an introduction, but
Right, and it's going to be the shortest the least that I've spoken, because I made a promise that I made a promise to you and to Mark that I would not.
Just do it.
Okay, anyway, Mark Levine I'm not going to go all the way back, except to tell you that among other wonderful things that I just discovered about him, is that he majored in physics in college, so he knows how to deal with numbers and everything else besides.
Don't ask me to solve Schrodinger's equation.
Okay, he was a school teacher, so he knows how to deal with recalcitrant children
And board members.
and at board meetings,
No,
and
and board meetings.
And he also, was a two-term city council member, representing the upper west side.
Exactly. Otherwise known as Washington Heights and West Harlem.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Exactly. And he is known really nationwide because in his second term, he was the chair of the City Council Health Committee, and that was during the time of COVID, and he has been lauded, really, for the work that he did with that, and I'm very proud of him. On that note, I will just introduce you all to the borough president of my borough, Manhattan.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks to everyone online and in person. Thanks to all of you because I know you're volunteering for this role and your input on transit in New York City and beyond is just incredibly important. I want to talk about congestion pricing. I want to talk about Penn Station and a couple of other topics, but I actually want to start with I think some really positive perspective on a transit system that was facing the abyss 2.5 years ago with a truly uncertain fiscal future, with ridership down 90%, and people questioning whether mass transit would work for New York City going forward, which I think all of you understand the implications of that. That's like questioning whether New York City can continue to exist. And we have a lot of challenges on mass transit in New York, and I'm not going to shy away from them, and I know you don't either. But we're hitting 4 million riders on busy days on the subway now. And weekend ridership is booming.
4.7 on Friday, Jay.
We hit 4.7 on Friday?
Pride Day.
Oh, on Pride Day, because you had workers and tourists and everyone. So look, at a certain point, we're going to hit 5 million. And while long-term, we know there's fiscal challenges coming out of the state budget, we can breathe a little bit easier now, at least for the next year or so. And that's a big deal. So let's take a moment to feel good about that. And now let me pivot to some of the more substantive policy. I'll start with congestion pricing. It is politically one of the most challenging policies that I've ever been involved in. But at the end of the day, it's going to be implemented. Asterisk on New Jersey's lawsuit, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's going to be implemented. And it's going to be a game change for mass transit in New York City. It's going to mean a steady, consistent stream of, I guess, $1.5 billion a year that will help do all the things you're fighting for and I'm fighting for. Accessibility in a largely inaccessible system. More modern rolling stock and buses in a system where it's really showing its age. Bringing the signaling system from vintage World War II into the 21st century. And that's going to transform the rider experience. That'll bring more people in. It'll bring financial efficiencies, and will really set us up for the decades to come, I believe. I've talked to people from other cities. A cousin I'm very close to works at Transport for London. And what we've seen around the world is the political doom spiral hits bottom at the moment the policy is implemented, at the moment the system's turned on, and then the politics transform. And what you saw in London is the biggest fight after it was turned on was people who wanted to be added into the congestion zone. And it just shows that this works, that it relieves congestion, that it improves transit, and people eventually celebrate that. But we're in the tough period of the politics right now. And we've got a fiercer than I expected counterattack from New Jersey, maybe from Staten Island. Who's the Staten Islander in the room? Okay, so Borough President Pasella and I have become friends, all 5 of the borough presidents. We've really developed a good time. Sorry to see him saying he's going to sue, but I'll say this about both Jersey and Staten Island. the vast majority of people who are coming daily into Manhattan South and 60th Street from New Jersey are coming by mass transit, and from Staten Island are coming by mass transit. I actually just looked at the number on Staten Island, and 3.5 to 1 is the ratio of Staten Islanders coming into the CBD via mass transit versus private automobile. And I hope that the elected officials from those places bear that in mind when they think about their advocacy. I find the lawsuit from New Jersey particularly galling. I think it's basically rank hypocrisy in a state where the New Jersey Turnpike is one of the most expensive toll roads in America, maybe in the world, where the tolls on the Turnpike are almost certainly higher than what we're going to end up at on congestion pricing, and they are siphoning billions of dollars out of the New Jersey Turnpike receipts into New Jersey Transit. So that it's the exact model that they are now suing against in New York. And by the way, if these guys are so anti-toll, the Garden State Parkway is entirely under the auspices of the governor and the legislature. They could eliminate the toll there tomorrow. They haven't because they want the revenue. But again, it's really demagoguery that I'm disappointed to see. Friends of mine in the legal world have assured me that they don't think that lawsuit will prevail. By the way, they're suing based on on environmental concerns, and I believe based on provisions of the Clean Air Act. We know that congestion pricing will be good for the environment. It will get cars off the road. It will improve air quality. It'll be a win for our fight against climate change. Really quite rich that they're suing based on an environmental claim. I do think in talking to a lot of constituents in Manhattan and beyond, I don't want to minimize the fact that there's a lot of pushback. There are concerns from the disability advocacy community. There are concerns from low-income advocates. And I think the biggest problem we have is that the charge, people who are going to pay the charge know exactly who they are, and the people who are going to benefit from all the upside don't really know who they are yet because it's sort of diffuse. And I think that as advocates for this policy, we've got to flip that. And I think we need to find a way for people who are going to benefit from a dramatically better transit system to know. Maybe it's identifying the next few dozen subway stations that are going to get elevators, as an example. Maybe we need to say now we're going to add ferry service from the South Shore of Staten Island as part of this. It's true, if you're from the South Shore of Staten Island, you don't currently have great options. You can take Staten Island Railroad, but maybe we can think together about that. Let's identify transit wins as part of this. I do want to talk a minute about Penn Station. And have you all deliberated much on this topic in this group?
Congestion pricing?
No, Penn Station.
We spoke about the
Yeah.
need for, or non-need for the office towers that were originally proposed. We have somewhat discussed the 8th Avenue side of Penn
Yeah.
Station.
It's both accessibility.
Our Railroad Commuter Council has had some of those conversations.
Okay.
But we've also talked about it as TCAC, about the focus as of really looking at fix it now, as opposed to getting into the larger, broader.
Looking at it as what?
Fix it now,
Fix it now.
as opposed to getting mired into the forever project.
Yeah.
That may or may not happen.
And
We understand we understand the complexity and the need to fix the underground issues, the platforms, the stairways, but, that's, and introduce through running, but that's another conversation.
Yes.
But right now, for the commuters, it has to be.
Yeah.
And I think Andrew told you, and I mentioned it, that one of Dick Ravage's last actions was the letter that he sent to the whole board voicing his opinions about plans for Penn
Yes, that was very strong,
Yeah, we talked about that, so,
very strong.
yeah.
Well, we do need to fix it now. I would argue we need to go big. I think that we have a unique window open right now that might close again. We have good partners in President Biden and Majority Leader Schumer, who are going to be in those roles for the next year and a half, and might not be on that, as hard as it is to consider that possibility. We can't assume that both of them will be in those roles in a year and a half. We certainly want to get this done before Metro North comes in, because that's just going to make a complicated project even more complicated. And look, there's just great momentum in the site with the opening of Moynihan, with Gateway on the horizon, and now's the time. I would argue that going big should include a grand entrance on 8th Avenue. It's not my job to pick vendors or contractors. I won't weigh in on that, but I am pretty compelled by this vision of knocking down the Hulu Theater. It's now just called the Theater at Madison Square Garden, because when you knock down that theater, you can get a grand entrance on 8th Avenue, like a world-class train entrance that pairs nicely with what we just did at Moynihan. You also can remove columns on the train platforms below, and that creates space for more elevators and stairways and other means of egress on platforms which don't meet anyone's standard of adequate egress right now. And the proposal from the private developer is to build a box around the arena, which would create a street wall for retail and other active uses, but has an unappreciated benefit, which you as transit advocates will care about. Right now, all the operational space for Amtrak and I think NJT are kind of in the middle of the station, which is part of why passengers have to navigate through a labyrinth. If you build this box, you can take all of that out of the middle and put it into the corners of the box. And that has allowed for that plan to clear out a full open concourse in the entire footprint of the property for riders.
Penn Station.
Yes. And lastly, this might not be something you care a lot about, but we have a big problem with trucks for the arena backing up onto 33rd Street. And this would, if you get the theater out, you're creating space for underground truck parking that we don't have right now, so there'll be no more backups of the trucks onto the street. A lot of wins. Look, I'll say that the MTA is not as far along in its proposal. They have produced some great renderings, which would clearly be a vast improvement over the status quo. I just think there should be an RFP for a master plan on the site, and let's look at comparable costs and comparable timelines and comparable benefits to riders. And I think the governor is committed to that. She's indicated that she is, and I'm excited about that, but would love for you guys to be engaged on that. I think I'm going to pause right now, because I'd love to open it up for your questions and comments. Please, yes.
First of all, Borough Friends, good to see you again,
Likewise.
because we were at the Disability United, but,
Can I just, why don't, when we ask questions, let's have everybody introduce themselves.
I was just gonna do it, but,
Okay.
I just wanna say it's good to see him again. Borough Friends, as you know, I'm Christopher Deegrive. We met at the Disability United
Yeah.
Festival, in Manhattan. One thing that, with Penn Station, as the Long Island Railroad ADA Task Force member and doing actor as well, the one thing that Penn Station, that all part of Penn Station has been working on is making sure signage has been enlargement and giving people directions, not just to the 8th Avenue, but to the 7th Avenue. I agree with you about the increasement of elevators. As you know, 33rd and 7th Avenue now has another elevator.
Yep.
Now, if we do increase elevators, and there's some areas of stations, and I will say 50-50, because I'm going to be fair on elevators and ramps
Yep.
as well. we want to make sure that any person with a disability or senior, or even a baby stroller, has the right to get easy access, not just to the subway, but to any transportation at that station, at Penn Station.
Yes.
So continuing accessibility is in my job, is definitely in my job. I like to make sure that everything at that station is 1,000% accessible.
I believe that the ASTM plan has a minimum of 2 elevators for each platform. I have to check that. They're also able to add some additional stairway and escalator means of egress. And I'm not sure where the MTA plan on that is. I think any reconstruction of the station has to improve means of egress. But I do like the idea of having a little redundancy with 2 elevators per platform, so that if one's out, nobody's trapped. But I'm with you on accessibility more broadly, Christopher, and certainly at Penn Station as well. It's one of the biggest benefits of reconstruction. Please, yeah.
Hi, I'm Burton Strauss. I'm vice chairman of this organization, and mayor of appointee to this organization a number of years back. Just out of curiosity, I woke up this week and found out that Third Avenue had suddenly been changed. They ripped out all of the restaurants along the sidewalk, along the street. All gone.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Someone is planning to redo Third Avenue.
Third Avenue.
59 to 96. That's
59.
the
Yes, but I didn't catch the restaurants piece.
Well, they took out all the restaurant expansions that were granted.
Yes.
They disappeared in a week.
Not,
I never saw them.
Well, okay, yes. I mean, Third Avenue is being reconstructed along sort of the standard DOT model. I think it's great. It's going to add dedicated bike lane and a lot of pedestrian.
On one side, on the other side.
Yeah. Yes, bus lane and a lot of pedestrian infrastructure, extending curbs, et cetera. I think it's a great plan. Look, all the outdoor dining structures are probably going to have to be redone because the new law, really the first official long-term law, is a new model that's really more, with some exceptions, mostly you're going to see tables, umbrellas, and a short barrier. You're not going to see the kind of essentially buildings that you have now. So that's what you're seeing on Third Avenue.
I think that the traffic is going to be able to move without being disrupted by construction, as we have on some of the blocks today.
I don't know about the construction, but what you've seen on all of these redesigns is it just, in general, works better for everybody. Pedestrians, bus riders, motorists, bicyclists. You certainly see a reduction. I think across the city, they've had a consistent 30% reduction in crashes and injuries due to crashes, for all the reasons you can imagine. Buses move faster, and I think there's a perception that it slows down motor vehicle traffic, and I'm actually not sure that's the case. I think this is a win for everybody. Yes, please.
Hi, Mark. You know who I am.
Yes, I do, Andrew.
So, we're all in, with one exception myself, we're all in favor of congestion pricing.
Yeah.
What you said about New Jersey was spot on. Those people will certainly benefit, especially since 85 to 90% of them use New Jersey Transit bus or train to get into Manhattan anyway.
Exactly.
So an improved MTA would help them too. A lot of them do transfer to MTA facilities. But even if you're a driver, the streets will be clear, it'll benefit you as well.
Yeah.
What you said about them siphoning off money for New Jersey Transit from the Garden State Parkway, they better up their siphoning because they're facing their fiscal cliff.
Yes, they are.
They could see some severe service cuts in New
Yes.
Jersey. So that's something that, obviously, they're looking for a piece of the pie is basically what this is all about, I have a feeling.
That would be the least worrisome motivation.
Yeah.
I'm increasingly worried they actually want to kill it, but, I mean, the lawsuit would indicate that.
As Mayor Lieber has said on occasion, he doesn't remember New Jersey asking our opinion when they raised the rates on the Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway. But interestingly, a lot of it's because, I'm on C7. Some of the folks in areas immediately adjacent to the central business district are somewhat concerned that, and Sam Schwartz and I have agreed on it. Once you try parking in those Upper East or Upper West Side neighborhoods, when you see the lack of parking spaces or the cost of a garage, you'll try it once and that'll be it.
Well, we have a plan on that.
Okay, some people have said they would like to see at least a pilot of.
Residential parking.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So I completely agree that we already have a problem with people from Jersey and the suburbs dumping their cars on local streets and not just Manhattan. I mean, a lot of parts of Brooklyn and Queens too.
179th Street, you would expect at the end of the F line, so many people.
I'm sure. I don't know that as well.
Yeah.
179th Street in Manhattan, every single morning,
Yeah,
people come off the
for sure.
George Washington Bridge. They tend to always be luxury cars for whatever reason. You see them like beginning at 7 a.m., circling around. And that's gonna get worse after you have congestion pricing. People are gonna wanna ditch their car anywhere north of the zone to not pay, the fee. And I think we should join what most other cities in America have, which is a residential parking permit program. And we've had a bill when I was on the council, it's now being carried by Councilmember De La Rosa, which would allow essentially community boards to opt in. So it would be a community by community basis. And I will say anecdotally, most boards very much want it. It would, prevent this kind of behavior and hopefully incentivize some of those car owners to hop on New Jersey Transit, which is better for everybody. Thank you. Yes.
I know that you have a brief amount of time, but I would hope that you would share with all the rest what you and I have talked about, which is phase 2 of the Second Avenue subway. And going further west than it has before. Andrew has pointed out to me that it's not going to go all the way over to, far west, but it's going to be 125 and Park, which is further west than it's going, and then hopefully there'll be more of that.
The storage tract
But if
is
you could
as
just,
far west as Lenox Avenue, we've learned.
yeah. So if you could just talk about the benefits and about your feelings about the second.
Well, I know this group has been advocating, and you particularly, Trudy, have been advocating for years, maybe decades, for the Second Avenue subway.
Yeah.
And we wanted to get to East Harlem, which is a transit desert and deserves better. The connection to Lexington Avenue is gonna be transformative for the neighborhood and for transit riders. It will relieve overcrowding on the 4, 5, 6, for sure. I would ultimately like to see it go all the way to Broadway, and I know that that has been considered. I'd love to see it connect to the BCD, ABCD on St. Nick. I would love to see it reach Broadway, the one train. And I have a vision for 125th Street on the Hudson River, which is that this I know you've talked about, get Metro North running down those tracks. Get a stop on 125th Street. There used to be a train stop on 125th Street. You can see the old train house. And then I want a ferry going to Edgewater and Weehawken. It's 5 to 8 minutes to take a ferry to Jersey from there. And that would be another way people can ditch their cars and instead of driving across the GWB. So then we can have like a multimodal hub there where you could take a ferry, you could take Metro North, you can come on, I guess it'll be at that point the T line from Broadway. It'll just change everything about transit access uptown and for the whole region. So I'm all in on this. I know the next segment is critical, and I know we're not quite there yet, but great news from the MTA a couple weeks ago. They're going to put some of the first construction bids out, so we're making progress. Did you want to jump in with a comment on that? And then we'll go to you. Yeah, please.
My name is Michael J. Howard. I prefer Mike. Speaking of George Washington Bridge, the station itself on the A line needs to be, the elevator needs to be reinvented because it's old,
It's out of service.
dirty, and stinking.
Yeah.
175th Street on the A.
181 is getting a new elevator, I know that.
Yeah, I know that too.
Yeah, 175 could use some.
191 is gonna have, platform access via elevator.
It's a station in the system.
Yes, it is, and it's,
It also has the Edith Prentice plaque on it.
what's that?
That elevator has the Edith
Oh, yes,
Prentice
yes, yes.
plaque with
That's my home station, by the way,
Yes.
so I'm watching the progress, it's gonna be great. But the elevator on 175th, it must have been one of the first they put in. It looks very, like, 1980s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, we should price out a reconstruction of that. Why don't we, Mike, you and I connect, and talk to MTA to get that on their list?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Point of information, Andrew.
Very quick, Christopher, 'cause I don't
I'm
wanna
gonna
go.
be quick, because this is late.
No, you're not.
Let me do it quick, so I can say, it is being listed, being renovated soon. It is.
Oh, that's, that elevator?
Yes, because
Thank you for telling me that.
I did advocate for that one, because that one's been breaking down. The only thing they refixed was the LD lights, duty notice.
Okay, good. Okay, please.
I'm Sharon Hogue, I'm advocate representative. First, a footnote on what you said about residential parking, and that is if each community board is doing it, could I suggest that there would be standardized guidelines so that we wouldn't end up with, all sorts
Yeah,
of different...
fair point.
And then, whoever licenses Madison Square Garden, I understood that license, that they don't pay taxes and it doesn't, is there no way to get more revenue from that?
So there's two issues on MSG right now. So there is, they have a special permit to operate.
Yeah.
And this was a permit granted in 1983 when they were threatening to pull the Rangers and the Knicks out of New York City. And the permit says that they can continue to operate as long as the Rangers and Knicks are here. It was a 50-year permit, expired 10 years ago. They got a 10-year extension. It's expiring now. This is a land use action that my office and the city council and the normal process for what's called ULURP, we all have a say. And I recommended a fairly short-term extension of 5 years because I want to put pressure on to get the train station reconstructed, and I want MSG to sit down with the railroads and grant access to spaces that we're gonna need to do the reconstruction right. There's a parallel issue, which is their tax exemption, which is a state exemption that I oppose. I think that we should receive that revenue of $45 million a year. The IBO just did an estimate that it's already cost us almost $1 billion, more every year, obviously, and I don't think they should get that tax exemption anymore. But just to clear that it's separate from the special permit issue. All gets very complicated, but thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Lisa Dagley, and I'm the executive director here. I was gonna ask you about the special permit, so that was my question. So what I'm gonna do is ask Cicely Harris's question. She's on
Great.
the screen.
My friend.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Mark. We'd love to hear more about the parking permit program and how community boards can get information and involved. And I'm gonna just tag on, I live in Long Island City. I am the parking paradise of nobody, but where everybody goes to try and park. So.
Yeah, my colleagues in kind of inner ring, Brooklyn and Queens, I've heard about this in Brooklyn Heights too, have said it's a major challenge there as well.
Yeah.
Presumably people coming in from Long Island or whatever.
Or other parts of Queens.
Oh, yeah. And so we don't have a lot of details in the legislation. It would leave some of the major program design initiatives up to DOT. We do envision that it would be not the old-fashioned sticker on a windshield model, but that it would be based on a more electronic system, that there'd be some provision for guests and visitors, as there is, I know the system in Boston well, and there, if you have a family member or other visitor, you can get like a one-day pass for them. We envision that would be, there'd be a similar model. Perhaps if you had a contractor coming for the day to fix your plumbing, you might have a similar option available to you. The question of the pricing is not addressed in the legislation, and that's pretty controversial. We hit a wall when I was in the council because DOT was really against it, and I don't think that's changed, but I think we should continue to push. And I think community boards should be passing resolutions all over New York City saying they want it. The bills are now active, as I mentioned. Councilmember De La Rosa is working on it, and it's very helpful to have community boards weighing in favor of this legislation.
Great,
Sure,
thank you.
as well.
So we came out in support of the parking permits as part of the state budget.
Great.
And I have had conversations with city DOT about residential parking permits, and they basically said, well, one of the borough engineers, not Manhattan, did say, variable pricing on parking meters
Yeah.
could do the same thing. Well, I don't think so, because.
Well, but those streets aren't metered.
Taking into account the local businesses as well, and the avenues will be different than the side streets
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah, but that's, yeah.
But our board resident, I know you have to run, so. Sure, just gonna, thank you.
I just, because I know you have I've been told by Chris that you
Sadly.
have a hard and fast 2 p.m. in your office, so I promised I would let, and just now.
Thank you,
So on
Trudy.
behalf of all of us, I tell about you.
Oh, thank you, you're the
But
best.
I think now people realize why I fell about you.
Oh, you're the best.
Okay, anyway, so thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, this was a great discussion. All right, enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Take care.
You got it.
Okay.
It's right here.
Where's his office?
All right.
Where's his office?
On Center Street.
David Dinkins Municipal Building.
Oh,
Okay, we're up to the, old business part of the meeting. Unless you have any additional reports, Lisa? No. Okay. Anyone have an item of old business?
So I was in mid-sentence when he came in. I wanted to follow up with Lisa. So, Lisa, did they say how they were going to evaluate the success of the free buses? The criteria for how they would measure whether this is something we'd want in the future? Is it just pure ridership, or are there other criteria?
They didn't say, Kate, unless you want to jump in and go into any of the details there, or Andrew on the free bus criteria, we're going to see how long the funding lasts. It's between 6 and 12 months. There's a specific set of dollars. They're going to see what the ridership is. They're going to look in performance. Does it go faster if it's free? If there's all the reporting? That's the way for them to monitor what all the reporting also looks like. It's a funded mandate,
Right.
so
The SBS buses are also reporting.
but it's
Different.
it's.
I'm
That's
curious how we
another
measure their success, yeah.
It's not as though it's an optional program, so the MTA didn't say, this is a great idea, let's try it. The legislature said, if you do this, here's money, and then we'll take a look at it. So I don't know that the legislation included metrics.
Okay.
It included criteria for selection.
So if we as
We can find that
So
out.
if we as a body, look at it, I think we should have a discussion at some point.
We can find out
What
the
elements
metrics
would be
are.
interesting to us,
One of the things I asked them to examine is where one of the 4 of the 5 of the free bus lines, Staten Island, because Staten Island does not have the mass transit assortment that the other boroughs have, where they intersect it has buses, so where they intersect other bus routes or a subway to monitor if there is increased fare evasion at those points.
Nobody pays for 46 anyway, so all they did was just remove the fare box.
Thank you. Right.
So that would be something
So that's
we'd want to look at
I
too.
particularly have asked.
double their income.
No, I know, I think it's great way you just.
This should not end up, a specific amount in the state budget was set aside to do this.
Oh, I know
It shouldn't
that,
end up
yeah.
costing us even more because
Right.
people think everything is free.
Right, so I think we should be on record that they should be looking at things like that.
Agreed. And I've enunciated that in various meetings, but I will further do so.
26 will show no difference.
Andrew,
Yes.
one thing they also need to check also is there's been reports of the Omni machines on those buses. The drivers are not programming them, or they're saying not in service, but later on, all of a sudden, it will start working. And then we find out is the driver doesn't program it.
But that's not on these buses, because the free buses haven't gone into effect yet.
No, we're not talking about the free bus, I'm just giving.
We were
What are you talking about,
the free
Chris?
buses.
You're talking about if the bus driver puts a signage on that activates the Omni machine,
Sometimes
it takes Omni machine 2-3 minutes to boot up. So if he's pulling in and he activates it,
It's done.
it takes 2-3 minutes to boot. So if he
Yes.
pulls in
Mm-hmm.
and you get on a bus, the
Mhm.
screen's still red.
Well, it should have been activated, all of the screens,
Both correct.
on departure, not that late, let's
Well,
put it that way.
Okay, as the two pulls into Worth Street, as you're pulling in, they pull to the stop, it says not in service, then it goes on. You get the bus and you see the Omni booting up,
Yeah.
and it's red,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes 2-3 minutes for it to boot.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, yeah, and he's right. And sometimes, all of a sudden, it will not work. And then we all asked him, did you let the tower know? And there's,
I'm really confused, because I thought we were talking about free buses.
it's related
We're making-
also because it's fair
well, that
invasion.
makes it free.
Exactly, it does make it free, because I said we should keep an eye on that as well. Because fair invasion is related to partially that.
I'm seeing many, many more people paying with Omni on the buses,
Yeah.
many more now.
Well, I've seen a whole crew cut on the bus, strictly. Nobody's.
Oh, I've seen that too.
Nobody's put a,
And you know
Metro card in.
that in the non-articulated buses on a non-SBS route, the bus operators have been mandated to not open the rear door automatically because people pile in unless someone is exiting.
yeah, but there's someone exiting and then it's open.
Yes.
But pivoting into fair evasion, but an old business item. So we talked about, and Trudy's talked about this ad nauseum, with the
Ad
monitor.
infinitum.
Ad infinitum with the monitors on, the SBS routes and checking. The Eagle teams, yeah. So I had occasion to ride the 15 the other day, and I think, one of our focuses is customer service and clarity of message. So the bus came as I was crossing the street, and I was able to pay my fare with a credit card, because I didn't have time to go to the machine and get a ticket. So is that kosher, or it's not kosher? Right, but it's not, and then there were others who were on the bus.
Was it a Friday? It would have been more kosher.
Actually, it was a Wednesday, but,
Friday evening.
right, before the, but then there were some others who boarded as well, and, were unfamiliar with the ticket system, and didn't have credit cards, and the bus driver let them ride, but,
I've seen that.
but it, just in terms of the coexistence of Omni and MetroCard, you don't need the ticket if you
You have the Omni.
if you have the Omni or a credit, that's right. So
But you're
from a,
paying more necessarily by doing it.
I just had to get on the bus, but I'm just saying that, it's not clear to riders that that's an option.
Right.
And, we'll take the extra revenue.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Even from you.
Right.
Sharon.
A couple of times when I haven't had time, before I get on the SBS, I buy the ticket when I get off. Just, because I pay.
But the Eagle team.
Nobody knows it, yeah. If the Eagle team
I hope
picks
it's
you
a
up.
short enough bus ride that you didn't exceed the 2-hour thing, so.
They weren't there,
They weren't there.
I have a question on the
Yeah,
Eagle,
Bernie.
question on the Eagle team. I mean, I've been reading that this is supposed to be greatly enhanced in.
Yes, on non-SBS buses.
Are they hiring a big group of people to be out there?
They're hiring additional people. Yeah,
On non-SBS buses?
on non-SBS as well as SBS.
Whatever happened to the program that we are paying that boost people extra to be in the stations? I have yet to see one.
Oh, I've seen them all over the place.
I don't.
I've seen them all over the place and don't necessarily believe that they're going to stop somebody from vaulting over the
Oh,
turnstile.
They're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to, but their visibility was supposed to say, oh, somebody's watching, maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah,
I don't think it's happening
there's
that
a
way.
cop standing there, so.
Doesn't go
If
very
there's a
quick.
cop there.
That's true.
And he isn't on his phone.
It was my
Or she.
understanding that the Eagle team was a club of people, not just hiring people to just be on the Eagle team, but people who had other positions or other duties.
I didn't hear that.
NPA, but, I mean, this was quite a while ago.
That was much before they've announced they're gonna be on non-SBS as well as SBS, so they need more people.
Do we have any idea how many people?
I don't yet.
I can get back to work.
I don't yet. Thank you, Scott.
And another
Thank you, Scott.
old item.
Yeah.
The
Take you 45 minutes.
No, it's not like that.
Oh, at the last meeting, Trudy raised the issue of clarity when someone wants to purchase an Omni card from a vendor and whether it has fare or not. Did we ever hear back from the authority, whether they're researching? No, I know it doesn't. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the clarity over whether the product that's sold, that people know what they're getting, and the confusion, apparent confusion that Trudy talked about. Did we ever hear back from Kate about what they intend to do or not do? Or it's a non-issue?
Kate, if you could answer that, we would love to hear it. I have not heard anything about that.
I passed the note along and they thanked you for the input. They thought it was an idea, but they didn't tell me if they're going to implement it.
Okay.
But it was appreciated. I thought I'd put that in my response. Sorry, guys.
Just so you know, as an update, at least in CVS, no, and actually in Walgreens / Duane Reade also, they have the Omni cards mixed in with, you can buy a gift card, you can buy and everything else. But there is no indication that there is any money on it, except that when the cashiers or the people who they're buying the cards from say, well, you don't have any, this is just now, do you want to buy or do you want to, and the people, they tell me that so many of the customers say, no, there's money on here already, there's on, and so it has not been made clear, and one of the things is that being sold with the blank other cards, maybe there's an assumption that it's like buying a Macy's charge card or something else, and that they have to then put money on it. I don't know, but basically, nothing has changed.
They should have wording on it, fare not included.
And if they're not inclined, to do that, then maybe the merchant agreement that they have with the people selling it, the merchant should put up a uniform poster that the authority supplies that says.
The authority should supply it.
Right, just a poster near the register that says that if you're buying this product, you need to add fare, or it doesn't come.
I'm guessing that once the Omni card machines start to be installed in stations, there'll be more people buying them there than in the drugstores and things like
But
that.
they should be,
And of course, those
They just
machines will
sell-
say, you must add fare, or whatever.
but if it is being sold in
Well, Chris has got a
someplace other than the station, then it should.
Here's a picture Chris has. It's just a big ad for Omnicard in the middle of the card rack. Doesn't say anything about fare.
No,
It doesn't say anything
It
about.
just says buy and
But
reload
see,
here.
We know this.
But we know that it,
Can we move on?
okay,
We discussed this.
I'm sorry,
We know this.
ad infinitum,
Okay,
ad
so
nauseam.
we're just asking Kate to keep it on the tickler if there's any other feedback. That's all.
Yeah. And hopefully, Kate, there will be good signage on the MTA's own Omni machines in the stations indicating that you must add fare for this card to be used.
Well, you have to buy, when you,
Buy-
just like
buy
when you
fare,
buy when you buy, say, fares, then
Right.
you need to buy a card, but you need a card too.
Yeah, now, if somebody doesn't add fare and they tap with it, will it just say?
You have to get, but you don't just buy a card. when you go to buy a MetroCard now, you don't just buy a MetroCard.
Well, of course, right.
You have to pay
You
$1.
wouldn't just go to buy an OmniCard.
So-
You go
so
to
would-
buy,
Omnicard plus fare.
you go to buy fare plus OmniCard.
Everywhere, that's the situation.
All right, well, we're
People
gonna see.
manage.
They're coming this month.
Andrew,
Yeah, Bert.
Mark brought up something about London. Do we have any knowledge of what the London congestion reduction has been long-term since they?
It's been,
Terrific is what? I
let
mean,
me tell you, he talks about this all the time. And there has been a, and I can get you the exact numbers, I asked for them before. But it's something like it's either 17, the two numbers that pop into my head are 17% or 24%, I'm just not sure.
It's 25%, because Andy,
25? Okay, that's
Andy
20.
Byford said it already.
Oh, Andy Byford said it, okay,
Yes.
then
25%
24 or 25%, I don't know where I got 17 from.
There's also been, there's also been a few other changes within the congestion
Yeah,
zone.
they have.
They've, changed a lot of the street design to decrease the amount of available roadway for cars. So people say, oh my God, well, it just takes me forever to get anywhere. It's more congested. It's not more congested. There's less places to drive on. There's more shared, for pedestrians and other road users.
And
That's,
besides,
and they've, they've expanded the zone, and they've increased the fare,
Especially with the new train lines they have.
yes,
So, there was a great presentation by a former deputy mayor. Really, a great presentation by a former deputy mayor for London, who came to an RPA lunch, who also was on an inside call, a few months back, and she was terrific.
so London is not the only city. Stockholm also has implemented it. What we would when, not if, when we do congestion pricing, we would be the first city in the United States to do congestion pricing, and that's a major selling point. There are other cities that are looking into it.
LA is looking into it, the land of the automobile.
Yeah, the land of exactly, is looking into it.
Can
But,
we move on, folks?
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
New business,
Yes, I wanted to move to new, because we're running out of time.
before I do my new business, you wanna talk about the trip next month?
We are looking into some very exciting possibilities for our,
Field trip.
yeah, our our August, field trip. So far, we're looking at the same day when the meeting would have been, which I believe is the 24th, August 24th, and we will get back to you via email about the various options.
Somewhere fun?
Yes, hopefully somewhere fun.
And enough said, Chris.
I just said somewhere fun.
Yeah, just enough said.
Yeah.
That's what I said, only say one word.
Anyone have some items of new business?
Andrew, I do have regular new business, but I'll let
Sharon
Sharon go
Sharon
first.
was first.
I was gonna say Sharon,
I
please.
tried to use the weekender, I looked up the end drain, it said it was running, I got to the station, it wasn't running. And who
You
is,
looked, which app? The Weekender?
the weekender?
Oh, I'm gonna show you something much better, Sharon.
Yeah, but the weekender, whoever's doing the weekender, could they please try to make it accurate?
This was,
For people who
when
don't
you,
have
when you
whatever
looked
your
at the
better app
Weekender, was it?
MTA dot
No,
weekender.
but what I'm gonna ask you is, did you look on it before the weekend, or just when you found there was no service?
I looked at it before I went to the train.
That same day?
And it said it said the train is interrupted in Brooklyn. And then I got to the station and it was roped off and it wasn't running to Queensboro Plaza. But whoever is doing the weekender, please double check that they're doing accurate posting.
That is up to the moment.
What was the date?
That was last Saturday.
And which line were you trying to ride?
NNR.
Down in the office.
And, what station? 59 left.
Which one?
Going southbound?
I was going to Astoria.
Oh, northbound, okay.
Yeah.
So I went and took the
Of course, the R wouldn't have helped you, you wanted the N.
25th,
Okay.
I took the Yes, and then I got there and the train was roaring in.
Oh, you must have got on the shuttle end, that section, Queens Borough platform.
It was running,
Yeah.
I should have taken the 7, but it didn't.
Andrew?
Yes.
Um,
By the way, there's a really good,
Yeah.
besides the app that I can show you, MTA has a planned service, outage or schedule.
Well,
If you put that as one of your,
and whoever
Quick
does
fix.
that is different from who does the
Yes,
weekender?
yes, that will show you what is planned for the weekend. That won't show you things that have just come up, but it gives you an
No,
idea of
no.
what's planned.
What's the, what is that?
What is what?
What is that?
MTA service.
No, it's part of the MTA's website.
But wouldn't the same information be in both places?
You would hope so, yes.
Shouldn't, I'm
Yeah.
not saying wouldn't, shouldn't the same information be put in both places?
Okay.
Dumb
Here it is.
question, but.
URL is newmta.info/alert, question mark, or alerts, that's what it is, just alerts. It's very good. That, you can easily see what's planned for a weekend, not what has just happened or what's certain to come up. I have something else for that, but any other items of new business? Chris?
as you know, yesterday was the 8833 anniversary.
You won't let us forget, of course we know.
I have to, because know why, Andrew? Because I want to say this, as MTA did celebrate everywhere in the New York region, I do want to make it clear on the recording, as well as in the minutes, that MTA did a fantastic and excellent job mentioning Disability Pride Month of all types of disabilities. It is important because in the years past, we only heard it closer to the date, not the whole month. And it was well, a lot of the events that Q has been doing, that it's been going really well. A lot of things that we're seeing screened on the train, especially the R211, has them on. So I do want to say thank you, and I want to make sure Caitlin heard me saying this. Unfortunately, Q could not be here. We're going to pop in, but he is in Albany, but he wanted me to say to everyone, thank you, everyone, for your support and your strength. And thank you, Caitlin, for that thumbs up. And I want to wish everyone happy 8833 and happy Disability Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we should give a big thank you to Q for the job that
Second that
he
motion.
has been doing.
Everyone agrees with me. Second motion.
Definitely.
I think that,
Q has been everywhere. You
yes,
see him
and
at all sorts of events.
he has
Yes,
been
let's not forget that.
for the first time. Right.
I second that motion with Trudy, and can I make a motion to adjourn?
Does anyone else have any business they would like to raise before we adjourn? Seeing none, I would say we're adjourned.
Second.
We'll be back to you with, possibilities on the field trip.
158.
Well.
Right, I tried.
158.
Yeah, I got that.